Does dehydrating really save any money? So the first way it can help is by stopping waste. How often have you bought an onion, you cut it in half, you've chopped up half to use for dinner that night, you put the other half in the refrigerator and totally forgot about it? Or maybe lettuce that you bought a big bin of it expecting you were going to eat salad every single day of the week. And by day 4, you've noticed you haven't even opened it. And maybe it's kind of getting slimy at the bottom because it's not lasting. Maybe you have celery that you bought that you didn't use it up. And now you're stuck with all the celery that's going to go bad in the back of your refrigerator because you're not using it. Now here's what you can do. You can chop it up, take small amounts that you have, even if you only have like a handful, stick it in the freezer. Then when you're ready and can run a full dehydrator load, or maybe you just have one extra tray you want to put those bobs and bits into your dehydrator, dry them, and they are ready for any time that you need it. And you can add it to a jar at any point. You can keep filling this jar up over time. It doesn't have to be all fresh each time. So that is a great way to start saving some of that produce that you let go bad in the refrigerator. One of my favorite things to do is making green or vegetable powder, depending on what you want to put in it. If you're putting all greens, like you can do a lot of the greens that you buy that you thought you were going to eat in a salad that week because you're going to be healthy, and then ended up not using it. Or this is just bits and bobs of vegetables that we didn't either use up enough of, or we had extras left over after dinner, or I bought specifically when they were on sale in order to make vegetable powder. This is a great way to do that. And you can add this to any meal to add extra nutrients to everything that you're doing. You're not wasting those things. You're making use of them. Now, what I'm not recommending is that you run a dehydrator full of only one tray of some onions. That's not necessary. That's wasteful because you're going to use electricity you don't need to use. But you can put those things in the freezer and they will save till the next time that you have time and space to use in your dehydrator. And the next thing is to shop today's prices for tomorrow. And another way that dehydrating can save you loads of money is to bulk buy when things are on sale. It helps if they're in season and on sale and that you're getting them relatively locally, because then that's the healthiest that you can get. But another way is to check your freezer section, because oftentimes those the freezer packages are really inexpensive when they go on sale, and those foods are frozen as soon as they're picked, like within a day. They go straight to the processor to be taken care of. They can often be more nutritious for you than the stuff that you buy on the shelf that may have been shipped from around the world. So take advantage of those. The other thing that I do is I really look for those clearance sales around my store. Oftentimes I can find things in the produce department. I can find things in the sometimes in the freezer section that I'm going to dehydrate. And when I find them, I buy as much as I can, and then I will come home and take care of them. Something else I do is I look at the front pages of all of the sales pages from our grocery stores around. So all of them usually have something on the front that's called a loss leader, which is something that's gone on sale really inexpensively to get you in the store so that you'll buy more. So what I do is I look for those things that I need to dry to see if it's worth the price to go in and check out and get something. So particularly this week, our Aldi has blueberries for $1.99. They've got grapes for $1.29, and they've got cantaloupe for $1.49. I look for the lowest price that I can get for the season. I usually keep a book that has prices in it, and I know a good price when it comes. $1.99 is not the best price that we can usually get for blueberries. I'll wait a little longer because when blueberry season kicks in, we'll probably get them a little less expensively. But right now, grapes for us for $1.29 is the lowest that I've seen in a while because we don't get them for 99 cents anymore like we used to. So this might be a good time to make some raisins. So what I look to do is to make sure that I have time to process it as well, because you don't want to buy the bulk and then come home and not have time and then it goes to waste. If you have space in your freezer, which we'll talk about in a second, you can put stuff in your freezer, get it prepped and put it in the freezer until you're ready to dehydrate, but you don't want to buy more than you have time to process any one time. But buying in bulk is one of my secret sauces to making my dehydrated pantry and my pantry full all the time. It really helps the budget a lot. Another way that dehydrating can help you save money is to stop making expensive trips to the grocery store. And you know the joke that when you go to Target for a $5 item and you come away spending $200 because you can't not spend $200 at Target. It works the same way for me sometimes when I go to the grocery store. in that I go in for one thing that maybe that we needed celery and I didn't have any left in the dehydrating cabinet and we just needed it. So you go to the store for $1 or $2 bundle of celery and you end up spending maybe $20 on stuff that you found in the end cap, and oh, I forgot I needed this and then I needed that, and then there was some clearance stuff that you get, and then there was the candy bar at the checkout stand, and then the cakes they always have right there as you're walking to the checkout. It's so easy to overspend when you go in for one thing, which is why they have the dairy department at the back of the store. It's because so many people come in just for milk, they want them to walk through the whole store in order to get you to spend more money. So this can help you stop those expensive trips to the store. If you have some of your vegetables already dried, then they are perfect for rehydrating right before a meal, getting your meal ready, and you didn't have to make that trip after all. Dehydrating overall is cheaper than running a freezer. Now, hear me out about this, okay? You're probably gonna have a freezer no matter what, because most of us do nowadays. We have freezer things that we buy from the stores that are in there. We keep our meat in there if we're not big on canning. We keep bulk items in there that make life a little easier. So I'm not gonna tell you to stop running your freezer. But if you have a freezer full of vegetables and you keep all of your vegetables in that freezer like you've grown them, or you bought them at the farmer's market to stock up for the year, dehydrating them as well as canning or as well as freeze drying like any other preservation method is going to be cheaper in the long run, because you do that work now, you run that machine now, you do your canner, you run your dehydrator, or you run your freeze dryer right now, you run it for a little while and you're done. But that freezer has to run 24 hours a day all year long. And if all you're storing in that freezer is vegetables, you'd probably be better off if you found another way to preserve them to save that money. Dehydrating is easy. It comes back not as fresh, but it comes back useful inside all of your meals. But it's going to save you money in the long run by not having to have that extra freezer that you have to run. You can always sell it and have some more money to stock up for your pantry. Now, do I mean don't use a freezer? I certainly don't. I rely on mine. I am not the biggest fan of canning. I do it, but I don't love it. And I'm trying to start thinking about how to translate all of my freezer stock from my meat into canning and or freeze drying, because I can't dehydrate it well. Some of it I can, but not all of it. And I'll always have a freezer. Or if you have a freezer that has regular stuff like we all do, but it's got a bunch of vegetables in it in the bottom and those big bags that tend to get freezer burn when you don't use them, dehydrate those vegetables. I'll give you a video right here on how I do that and save that space for the important stuff like the ice cream. So here's another way it can help you save money. You know those expensive fruit leather sheets that you get for your kids that are in, the rolls that you buy at the store, or dried fruit that costs so much money, or even if you buy trail mixes, they are really expensive. And the expense comes from the convenience that somebody did the work for you and they're selling you a tiny little package for $3 and $4. So let's take dried apple rings. When you buy a bag of dried apple rings, when I checked it at my store, it was like $4 for a small bag of dried apple rings. Now maybe they were freeze dried, maybe they were dehydrated, because they come both ways. But for $4, you can buy a whole package, or maybe even two, of apples, or get some smaller apples that don't come in the packages on sale. And then you will have a dehydrator full of dried apple rings that you can keep on your shelf all the time. That little $4 bag is really expensive. So that $4 bag is really expensive. And this way you can save a ton of money by making these yourself. Something else that you can do is make trail mixes from the dried fruits that you have. Maybe you want to put some granola, some nuts. I've got bananas. I've got a little bit of chocolate, some strawberries. We could put kiwi in here. I've got some pistachios. It's a fun mix that we've made that we love, and it's an easy way that you can make your own mixes pretty easily this way. So you're not buying those really expensive prepackaged ultra-processed foods that you don't really want to give your kids or your family. Do it yourself, because it's so much cheaper and it's healthier. Okay, let's talk about health. Is dehydrating food gonna save you money for your health? Now, I'm not gonna make that claim, because I can't make that claim. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist. I can't say that any of these things will help save your health, which means that you're not spending as much money at the doctor, so you're saving money. What this can do is that it can help you stop doing some of those things that can contribute to poor health down the road. So let's talk about what we talked about earlier, those ultra-processed foods that you may be purchasing for your family. Make healthier versions to keep your family healthier now. Stop buying takeout meals because you didn't have anything ready to go on the stove. Make those meals in a jar now that you can pull out whenever you need to, and they're usually ready within 30 minutes, which is about the time it's going to take you to go out and get food and come home anyway. Those kind of things can contribute to your family's overall health, which may save you money in the long run by fewer doctor visits, no need to take so many supplements because you are eating real food and things like that. So I'm not going to make that claim that it's going to save you money for your health, but it's going to help your health. Here's another tip. For those of you who have livestock at home, or maybe you have pets that you like to feed dried bits to, maybe you buy the kibble that already has dried food in it, you can actually save a lot of money if you get that kibble on its own and then add your own dried fruit into it of stuff that you already make all the time anyway. We do that for our rabbit. We feed her strawberry tops that will dry after we've been doing strawberries for whatever reason. It's important that you follow safe feeding guidelines for your animals to do this. So if you're going to feed them dried food, that you do the right quantities and that there's plenty of water available. I can't give you that information. That has to come from your vet. But it's a good way to save money because kibble for our rabbit is a lot less expensive without the dried bits of food. And so we just add our own dried bits of food into it so that when we feed her, she gets a little bit of everything that way. But we can also give her a few dried snacks as well. My parents used to raise cockatiels and parakeets and some parrots even over the time, and they would use dried fruits that they would buy. And then I'm thinking, we spent so much money on that. We could have done it ourselves. It would have been so much cheaper. I also know of people who dry a lot of food during the summer that they put away into the winter to feed their chickens over the winter so that they have other things to feed them instead of just chicken feed during the winter time. So these are other ways that you can do to save money on feeding your animals. Now, another way it can save you money is making your own mixes, making your own herbs and seasoning blends, making your own herbs to store on your shelf. So I make my own seasoning blends. This is not a recipe that I can give you because I usually call this the Darcy whatever seasoning blend, or Mrs. Darcy's, like Mrs. Dash, but Mrs. Darcy's. It is a blend of whatever herbs and spices that I kind of am thinking about at the moment. I'll throw them in here, mix them up with a little onion powder and garlic powder with some salt, and make a seasoning blend that I can use on my food. What this usually is either the bits that I buy on clearance at the grocery store, those herbs that they're clearancing out because they're not quite great anymore, but they're still okay. Grab them, dry them, and use them this way. Or that I'm harvesting from my garden before the hot season hits and everything bolts. So I'll just mix them all together and make these kind of seasoning blends. Something else you can do is this is my own ranch dressing mix because I make my own. And I have a recipe on my website that I'll link down below where you can make your own. And I'm going to have to make some pretty soon. I'm just waiting for the cucumbers to finish growing so I can make some more. The last thing is just your herbs. I mean, oregano. We grow oregano. And this year we've had a bumper crop, so I've got so much oregano now in the pantry, plus this is my daily use jar. But even just the herbs that you grow, or you can just put them in a pot on your patio or on your balcony if you don't have garden space. And you can save money on growing all of your own herbs and drying them. You can hang them in the house or in a space in your home, or use your dehydrator and save from buying those really expensive bottles at the store that sometimes can be a little old, so they don't even taste that good anyway. Another way that you can save money is to stop buying those really expensive camping and hiking meals that are kind of awful. Okay, I've tried a lot of them and they're always really high in salt. They've got way too many carbs in many of the mixes, and they're just so expensive. You can make meals on your own. You can make your own spaghetti and meatballs at home to do for short term to go into those hiking trips by making your spaghetti, cutting up the meatballs really small, drying them in your dehydrator, putting them in packages in Mylar, ready to go on your trip. Keep them in the freezer if they've got meat, and then you can just pull them out when you're ready to go. And it's so much less expensive than buying that spaghetti that you get in the prepackaged freeze-dried meals from the hiking and camping stores. It's so much cheaper to do on your own. You could even do meals in a jar that you can actually store in Mylar bags instead, that are just meals made up of simple ingredients that you add hot water to, just like if you made a meal separately. But you can make up all of your own ingredients to make it the way that you want it. So this happens to be egg roll in a jar that we love, but you can make these in single serving quantities too, but it's so much easier and cheaper to do on your own than buying those pre-done mixes from the camping and hiking stores. And another way that food dehydrating can save you money is on gift giving. Now, if you're already preserving a lot of food on your own, however you get the food, whether you're growing it or you purchase it from the store, if you already have that, you can put together really cute great ways to give gifts to friends if you're going to a party and you want to give a hostess gift, or friends who've just moved out into their first home, or a family who's just had a baby and needs some extra help, or maybe a loved one who is living alone and needs some extra food support, or maybe just to give a gift to a neighbor who's just moved in. You can do meals in a jar, like this egg roll in a jar. It's like add some hot water to it and it's ready to go. It's a super easy meal to put together for somebody who needs it. Or maybe like this trail mix that I talked about earlier, doing smaller versions of this to give as gift giving, like maybe at Christmas to give as like little gifts to friends and family. There are all sorts of ways that you can use your dehydrated foods like this as gifts to save you money in the long run, so that you're not buying gifts that are just going to go sit on a shelf for somebody or might not be useful. These are useful gifts that everybody will love. So how are ways that you think food dehydrating saves you money in your family? I know that I've gone over quite a few of them, and I'm hoping that you'll give us some more ideas about how it saves money for you. And I'm going to leave some links in the cards above and down in the description box below for you for references. And until I see you again next time, remember, happy dehydrating, and nevertheless, she preserved. See you next time.